My name is David Smith, for those of you who have not met me before. I am a CCIE in routing and switching, and I also have my VCP in VMware. I actually got it in 4.0, and I've updated it to 5, and pretty much kept up with it. I have not taken the 5.5 yet. I have it scheduled, but not that many changes. A couple of things in the switching and stuff like that. I've been working with VMware. There's a little joke I like to make that I've been working with it since it was VMware. What I mean by that is when VMware first started, they only had one product. It was called VMware, and it's what now has become VMware Workstation. So it was the Windows-based and Linux. They had Linux version. I don't remember if they had it right at the beginning, but it was pretty early. But again, it was just called VMware, and it was what has now become Workstation. Way before we had GSX, if anybody remembers that, depending how long you've been working with this. That, of course, evolved into VMware Server. And then, of course, ESX came out with the hypervisor. And that's sort of course, become the enterprise flagship product. That's what we'll be spending all of our time on today. But keep in mind, as we go through this and we're talking about managing virtual machines and all this, one of the great things about VMware is transportability, right? If you need to, you can move virtual machines from one environment to another. You can change things around. You can run something on your workstation, on your laptop, and then move it over to an ESX server. Now, on some rare occasions, and we'll get into this later, but you may have to run it through a product called VMware Converter. But generally speaking, you don't. It depends on a couple factors. But first section here is going to be introduction to virtual machines. Just some concepts, what they are, what they're for, and so on. So, just starting off, what is a virtual machine? In a nutshell, like it says here, it is a computer that's running completely in software. So, it's virtualized hardware. The operating system running inside of the virtual machine really has no idea what it's physically running on the outside. Now, there's a minor exception to that rule. We do not hide the CPU. We can mask features of the CPU to the virtual machine. But if you're running on, a 3.2 gigahertz processor, and you go into the virtual machine and you look at the properties of the processor, you're going to see a 3.2 gigahertz processor. So the processor, the CPU, is the one piece that is pretty much exposed completely to the virtual machine. Like I said, aside from some masking options that we'll see coming up, we can hide features from the virtual machine, and we'll talk about why we would need to do that as we go. So that's pretty much what we're doing with the virtual machine. That's the idea behind it. So there you go, where I said everything's hidden except the CPU. Again, we can hide the number of cores. So if you have a quad-core CPU physically in the host, but you only give that virtual machine one CPU, then he'll see just one CPU. He doesn't see all 4 cores and just can't use the other 3 or something. So we do hide the number of cores, and that would also include hyper-threading and stuff like this, and the number of physical sockets. So again, if you have a host with, quad processor, quad core, so you've got a total of 16 cores, and you give a virtual machine 2 cores, that's literally what it sees, is just 2 cores. But it will see the actual type of CPU it is, though. So it'll know if it's an Intel or an AMD, and it'll know, what family of processor it is, and it'll know all the features unless we choose to hide them. And again, we have methods to do that we'll take a look at throughout this course. What this really means is that the virtual machine becomes nothing more than a set of files that are stored on either local storage on the host or on shared storage. So we talked about all the advantages of where to store things and such, and how to connect to storage in our storage course. And this is the class where we're really going to be using all of that storage.